Anger management myth number 5. So, is anger management about suppressing your feelings? A lot of people come along saying, so how can I control it? How can I switch it off? How can I stop feeling angry? And surprisingly, they spend 3 days on our course and realise that actually this is not about suppressing feelings. In fact, if you suppress, as I mentioned in an earlier myth, you will find that depression is an issue for you. Certainly, suppressing over a long period of time will either increase your negative feelings, or it may switch your moods off completely, or perhaps even eventually make you explode. So that, I met a man about a year ago who had actually tried for 18 months to keep his family happy. He'd said, I won't express my feelings anymore, and actually after 18 months he blew it big time. So anger management is not about suppressing or repressing your feelings. It's about learning to sit in your anger, to be able to experience your emotions, to feel the full democracy of those feelings, whether it's sadness, fear, hurt, shame, happiness, feeling empowered or feeling peaceful. We want you to feel those feelings. The skill is really in how you express them. Once you've recognised them, what are you going to do with them, and how are you going to use them in a clean and healthy way? So that's myth number 5.